it's just coming up to 2 minutes to go. Quick slurp. What we'll do is just 5 minutes, I'll just get a few mobilisation exercises going, introduce Hilary, introduce Ewan as well, the president of Berwick. Why am I saying Berwick? Rowing Club, it's these cards, isn't it? Then do a few mobilisation exercises, then we'll do a 10-minute paddle as if we're leaving the club, 5 minutes sort of marshalling and a bit more description, and then a 20-minute row. So this 20-minute row should feel a little bit shorter than our previous 30-minute row, so that'll be nice. Okay, 1.5 minutes to go.
I don't know if anybody saw, I put some pictures on Twitter yesterday that Hilary had shared with us of the bridges.
Oh, brilliant. No, I didn't see that. Great.
They're absolutely beautiful bridges.
Well, we'll definitely have to repeat those after this. Thank you, Di. And also, while we're waiting, maybe just 1 minute to go. So a big shout out for Tom Daly as well, who was obviously rowing a bit of that stretch of water that we imagined in Race the Thames, a bit that nobody normally rows on because it's far too dangerous, but obviously he had the backup. Amazing feat for comic relief. So we'll have to definitely support him in that. Oh, dear. Okay. Okay, just another 20 seconds. Oh. So Hilary, as I'll do some of the talking during this first 10 minutes with you, and then I'll probably go on mute for the 20 minutes so that you and Di can talk perhaps. Okay, so welcome to this trip up north to England's most northerly rowing club, Berwick on Tweed. And I'm delighted to welcome Hilary Cairns, who's the treasurer at Berwick on Tweed, who's going to be our guide, going to narrate us along the river, tell us a little bit about the club, and really what she does also normally. And also very big welcome to Ewan, who's Berwick's president, who has in full red comic relief regalia, is going to be joining us on the Ergo as well. So that's fantastic. So first of all, I'm just going to wake my body up with a few exercises. You might have your own routine. So I'm just going to do a bit of shrugging the shoulders, rotating the shoulders round. 5 one way, 5 the other way. And then I've got my thumbs, my shoulders. Now just opening the arms around again, just starting to get those muscles that have been asleep all night going, and then 5 the other way. And then I'm going to do full arm circles, so really reaching up nice and slow. So Hilary, when you go down to the club with your girls or other rowers, have you got much space to do any land training or mobilisation or anything like that?
We make space. We make space. We've got our clubhouse is 2-storey, so our listed clubhouse, I should say, built entirely of wood, our listed clubhouse dating from 1869 is 2-storey. So we've got the boats underneath at kind of river level. And then up above, we have changing facilities and we have a very small bar. So the very small bar in the winter becomes training, ergo room, spin room. So we make space.
Okay, great. Well, so what I'm doing is now reaching up and across just to open up the size of my body. And I guess at this sort of time when rowers meet, you sort of chat about what's been going on in the week, how life's been. So what do you do, Hilary?
Well, last night at the club, it was probably a bit of discussion about what had been going on at the weekend. Yet again, it was very windy in the north. So, but although we did manage, we had one crew out on the Tweeds, out training. Despite it being windy, they found a short stretch where they could paddle. And then there was other discussions. There were 2 members of the club formed composite crew and raced at the revised Rutherford, which took place on the time.
Brilliant. Well, hey, that's great. So I'm just going to do a few hip rolls. Very stiff in my hip areas today. And for a living, I mean, I really appreciate your time this morning, Hilary. So normally you'd be up, out and working, as Ewan would be probably. So what do you normally, what's your work? What do you do for a living?
I'm a rural business administrator, which means I'm self-employed and I travel out to farms and I do accounts, payroll, agricultural compliance for local farmers, of which Ewan is one.
Is one. And Ewan, while I'm doing my, so I'm just going to do a few squats. So Ewan, do you want to just say a couple of words from your side?
Yeah, well, I think Hilary, as always, is very modest. The 2 people that were rowing on at the Rutherford was actually Hilary and Elvira in a composite with Hexham, and I think they were fastest ladies crew
Well done.
in their class, both in the morning, where I believe it was a bit like rowing across the North Sea.
Oh gosh.
And I think the afternoon was probably equally as bad. So it was, I think, a fantastic effort for such a small club as what we have.
Brilliant.
So she is very modest girl, but she's a very good rower.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And great. Well, this is like a rescue then. Okay, in the last 20 seconds, I'm just going to rotate around. So keeping my hips still now, just rotating my upper body. Okay. Right, I shall get on the erg now. It's 5 minutes. I'm trying to work out which is the best way for the camera. Okay, not that you really need to see my technique. Okay, so Hilary, so let's say we've got the boat out of the club and you know, tell us what you would normally do.
Well, getting the boat out of the club, because we've got elastic walls in our club and we seem to keep wanting to put more and more boats in there. So it's bit of a jigsaw to get your boat out, but let's just imagine we've made it through the narrowest part of the club and the tide's quite good today, let's say. So we've not got to carry it too far down the foreshore, just put it on the river. And if we look upstream, we'll see the Royal Border Bridge, which carries the East Coast main line between England and Scotland, although it doesn't actually make Scotland until 2.5 miles further up the track. And downstream, we've got what we call in Berwick the New Bridge, because it was only built in 1928. And just slightly lower downstream than that, we've got what's known as the Old Bridge. We're very good with our bridge names in Berwick. And the Old Bridge was built in 1634 originally, and it's now only open for one-way traffic. I'm surprised it's even open to traffic at all, but it remains. And then further downstream, as you head out towards the sea, there is a fishing sheel, Gardo fishing sheel, which is the only last remaining commercially run fishing sheels on the Tweed, which is a shame because in the 1960s there were about 30 fishing sheels on the river, and prior to that an awful lot more, and lots of men making a living out of seasonally fishing these beats.
And so just what is a fishing sheel?
A fishing sheel. The sheel is actually the little building that would stand on the side of the river, like a very small house, usually just one roomed with a fire, and it would be where the fishermen would take refuge to get a rest between fishing, or sometimes they would sleep there for the night if the fishing was to start very early. Right. So it's their little hut, little cabin. Yeah.
Brilliant. And shields, right. And that's definitely going to have to be a quiz question, Di.
Yeah, definitely.
And before we head inland. And I've got my RNLI badge on my Ergo these days. You mentioned that the RNLI is, there is a station near you.
Yes, yes, there's just down at the mouth of the river at a place called Car Rock is our lifeboat station. And we actually have 2 lifeboats, as I googled yesterday to find out. We have a Class D inshore and also a Mersey class all-weather boat. Obviously the inshore much closer to the coastline and the all-weather boat much further out. I also have to say that thankfully we've never actually needed the help of the RNLI, but they are amazing supporters of us. If we have a club event, they've been known to bring the Class D inshore and just do a bit of safety marshalling for us, which is so kind of them because they're all volunteers, but yeah, they've been there.
And
Well,
didn't
big
you
shout-
say one of your club members is a volunteer as well?
Yes, she is, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I think as I'm learning this last few months, I'm really learning there's so many relationships between rowing clubs, especially those on near the coast, or obviously Tideway, with their RNLI, local RNLI stations. So brilliant. Well, we've just gone 4 minutes into my sort of virtual paddle. I'm going to just start working down the slides. So for those people that just want a little bit of variety, I think my body is getting warmed up now. So I'm just going to, in the next couple of minutes, just work on technique and then we'll hop back to Hilary again. So I'm just going to go 3/4 slides. So just really making sure I've got my technique in a good place. And now half slide. And now just fixed seat. So the fixed seat, I'm just going to make sure I'm sat. So I'm getting all my body lean from max knots. I'm with a strong back. I'm not sort of curving over my spine to get the reach. And now hands only. So hands only, really focusing on relaxed fingers, sitting up, squeezing those shoulders back, only sitting back a couple of degrees. And now letting my hands lead my shoulders over into body rock, looking ahead, keeping control of my head. I'm starting to feel that little stretch in the hamstrings now. I'm just going to start breaking the knees. So all I'm doing is letting the momentum of my hands and shoulders break the knees. And with the breaking of the knees, I'm starting to really be able to press down with a foot plate at the catch. So that strong connection through the core to connect the handle with the foot plate. And I'm now just letting those knees break a little bit more and start to put a little bit more pressure down. And at the catch, with a strong core, making sure my arms are straight and just acting as links. And moving to 3/4 slide, just gently moving up there, letting the momentum take us forward. And just speaking of Tom Daly's row, I think that was definitely survival. Very rough water, and I see he had like a coastal single or something like that, self-bailer. But good on him for doing that. Okay, and now to a good 3/4 slide. Just going to do 10 3/4 pressure at 3/4 slide and then we'll be back to Hilary. So I'm definitely getting warmed up now. I'm going to paddle light and full slide now. So Hilary, we've got out into your bit of water. We've checked you've got safety cover. What else might you see on the warm up?
As we paddle upstream, I would be, on most days, I would be very surprised if we didn't get followed at some point by one of our friendly seals.
Oh, lovely.
There is quite a colony of seals around about the mouth of the river, but we have seen them as far upstream as West Ord, which is where we're going to start today. At times, if you're in a single or a smaller boat, they can get quite close, and when they pop up, they can give you quite a fright, but yeah, it is nice to see them.
Amazing.
We've also, not so much recently, but definitely in previous years, there was or is a colony of otters. Live round about the area, and sometimes I have been very fortunate to see them actually sitting on the lower buttress of a bridge and just given up training to sit and watch them for a while.
Amazing. And you know, all of our different rivers will have different wildlife, don't they? So
yeah,
knowing your local wildlife is great.
Yeah. And down at the, not where we would row, but down at the mouth of the river at certain times of year, there is a large colony pod of dolphins appear, which the people who run the local boat trips, I'm sure they love it, because their boat trips have been massively popular with people wanting to go out into the bay and try and get photographs of the dolphins.
It sounds like a wonderful place.
It is.
On a non-storm day.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, or Ewan mentioned your composite with Hexham. I mean, how many women are there? How many rowers are up there?
We have a membership of about 40, but not everybody wants to train all the way through the winter. So yeah. There's not too many ladies training regularly at the moment, and obviously allowing for differing masters' ages as well, which is why myself and Elvira are rowing composite at the moment.
Brilliant. Well, I know the feeling in my early days. Okay, so that's my 10-minute warm-up done. We've just got another 4 minutes. So for those that are rowing, make sure you've got water, ventilation. You're setting on your ergo, make sure it's appropriate for you. Mine's on between 4 and 5. Remember, it's a sort of a cardio workout rather than a weight training workout. But that's great that you're able to do these composites, and you know, even if you're training separately, there's that sort of motivation, isn't there, when you've got other people in your area?
Definitely.
So, brilliant.
It's not exactly handy to, because although both clubs are in Northumberland, Hexham is at the south of Northumberland and Berwick is obviously at the very north of Northumberland. So there's only 90 miles between us to have to go to train. So it's not the easiest, but
no.
You know, I've found in all the years that I've rowed, this composite only came about because we went to British Masters Championships, and there you tend to support people from your region, not just your club. Yeah. And we'd been supporting, got chatting. Do you fancy a composite? And the rest is...
Absolutely. And while you're mentioning about your region, I noticed that Berwick Long Distance Sculls, which we're about to do online, is part of a bigger Northern Region series. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, it's Northern Rowing Council run this 6-week series, which runs from the beginning of October, usually till about the middle of November, and it's 6 consecutive weeks. It's the Tees, the Tyne, the Tweed, the Wansbeck, South Hilton, and the
Berwick and the Weir.
And the Weir. Different distances. from about 1,800 metres to 5,000 metres. And it used to, I'm not sure if it still does, but it used to run as a series so that you collected points for where you finished each week. And then there was an overall series prize. But you can just do one, or you can do all 6, but it's absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant.
Small boats, sculling for the long distance, sculls, as it says, but some of the clubs have associated small boats head in the afternoon. So yeah, it's
Brilliant.
really good. Really
Brilliant.
good.
So we've got 1.5 minutes left. So while we're imagining ourselves marshalling, what might we see up here at this area that we're imagining?
Let's just imagine that we're slightly higher upstream than West Ord, where we'd start. So we'll go to the area where there is a bridge known as Union Chain Bridge, which was the longest single span chain suspension bridge when it was built 200 years ago. It was opened in 1820, the 26th of July 1820 to be precise.
Wow.
Now currently, if you come to Berwick, you probably think I'm talking a load of codswallop, because there is no bridge there at the moment. It was getting into the metal chains were in a bit of a state of disrepair, and various funding agencies found the money to repair it, and to be able to do so, they have completely removed the bridge. It's been amazing to keep going. It's about 4 or 5 miles upstream from Berwick, and it's been amazing to keep going up there and see this bridge literally be removed. At the moment, they're in the process of beginning to rebuild, and hopefully they'll get it back soon.
So a little mission each time to see where it's been built. Fantastic. Yeah. Right, so I'm just going to hop on the Ergo. We're going to do a 20-minute piece. I think I'm going to go on mute so you and Di can talk and you don't have my heavy breathing. So thank you so much for that. I'll catch you later.
Will do. Enjoy your row.
We do love imaginary landmarks. Thank you for that.
So now we'll just, if we're heading kind of towards the marshalling area, we'll just head downstream to an area that we know as West Ord. It really is a very picturesque area. You've got arable land rising away from both sides of the Tweed. And most of the way back to the town of Berwick, the Tweed's flowing through arable or livestock land. It's really nice.
Sounds great. And we're setting off. We've been told to start.
We've been told to start. Right, okay. As we've crossed the start line, those of you that have got your Ergos on the North Bank, I hope you've got your passports, because you are actually in Scotland, because at this point, right on the start line, the halfway across the river is actually the border between England and Scotland. So make sure you're actually in the right country. Those of you on the South Bank, you're fine, you're still in England.
Fantastic.
And I found out yesterday when I was doing a bit of research that for 15 miles, the river actually forms the border. I didn't realise it was as long as that.
Yeah, east of Kelso.
Yeah.
So the River Tweed, it's 97 miles long, or 156 kilometres.
That's right. And only the last 3 are wholly in England. So we are an English club who rows, in my mind, on a Scottish river.
Fantastic. And you talked about salmon. Tweed, the River Tweed also gave its name to the cloth Tweed.
Yeah, I believe it did, because an awful lot in the borders area, an awful lot of the mills were situated on the edge of the Tweed because they used the water from the Tweed to drive the mills.
Perfect. And as we all know, Tweed cloth is durable, rough woolen fabric, often herringbone pattern. It's moisture resistant, and we're fully expecting you to race in a Tweed all-in-one. Thanks,
that'll be nice. That'll be scratchy, won't it? Hope I don't get wet and it shrinks.
Absolutely. So as we've gone through West Ord, What are the hazards that we can see, Hilary?
Well, by now we'll probably just about be approaching the area that we know as Jack's Island. Have absolutely no idea how it came to be known as Jack's Island, but it always has been. You don't want to disappear down the back, on the north side of the river. You don't want to disappear down the back of Jack's Island because you won't get right through it. It'll get too shallow. So just be a little bit careful there that you stick out into the middle of the river and catch the fastest stream going back towards Berwick.
Marvellous, good tip. And this is where some of the old fishing shields are, that's right?
Yeah, yes, we'll just have passed, just as we started, we'll just have passed Finchy Shield and we'll be about approaching South Bells. And all these fisheries had different names. As I mentioned earlier, there's Gardo fishery, which is actually in the town of Berwick upon Tweed, but there's also, on our journey down, we'll also pass White Sands, and we've just passed Geary Shield. Now, Geary Shield and White Sands Shield are currently holiday cottages, and I can say I've stayed in White Sands Shield despite it only being about 4 miles away from home, and it's absolutely lovely.
Sounds great.
Yeah, they tried to preserve the heritage of what these buildings were.
Good. And what kind of we've talked about the mammals, the dolphins and the seals. What about bird life?
Yeah, the Tweed's quite famous for its swans. There's a large colony of swans live on the Tweed, both whooper and mute. See them at different times. The collections, different areas of the river at different times of the year, but sometimes when you've got a low-flying swan coming towards you when you're out paddling, it can be a little bit scary because they are big, powerful birds.
And so are you.
Also, as we start to which area we are going to be at now, we're probably going to be headed to an area now called Canny Bank, which was we've come down a beautiful long straight, and there's just a slight kink in the river, and the area is known as Canny Bank. Now, if you were a Berwick person and somebody referred to you as being a canny person, you're a friendly, kind of easygoing, nice person. So we're at a nice bank at the moment.
Fantastic.
Quite often in our club, you'll say to somebody, "Did you have a good paddle?" "Oh, it was canny."
And we've gone through our first 5 minutes.
Yes, so we're just on Canny Bank at the moment, and from here, if you just take a look over your shoulder, make sure you still want to be probably centre of the river. From here, you'll start to see the A1 bypass bridge, which takes the A1 again from England to Scotland. This was built or completed in 1983 because it was to allow the town of Berwick to be bypassed. Prior to that, all the heavy traffic had to go right through the centre of town.
And you've got spotters for this race on the bridge?
Yes, we have. We normally have our spotters dotted about the river, but it's nice and convenient that we've got a bridge so we can have somebody looking upstream and looking downstream. And from your upstream, downstream vantage, you can probably see 3/4 of the course.
Perfect. And then this is where the bend, the kink as you called it, the bend's got a bit more acute.
Yes, just we've gone round Canny Bank, and then we're just probably by now we're probably just passing Berwick Sewerage Works. We'll not say too much about that. It's usually not too bad. They do a good job of purifying the water, and then back now we're heading towards what we call Yarrow Corner, which is a bit more of a kink. Want to stay in the middle of the river again here, catching the stream, but also because on low tide at the inside of the bend, it can get a bit gravelly, and it has been known for an odd fin to be removed there.
Whoops.
Yeah.
So as we're on 7.5 minutes, I just want everybody to think about their technique. Nice straight backs with your necks on top of your spines. We're not going to lead with our chins. We're going to keep our chins in the natural position. We're going to use the slide to work out our breathing pattern. So breathe in as you go forwards and breathe out as you go backwards. Holding your core nice and firm with your bottom underneath you. And those of us with legs, we're using those, pushing off our feet. Nice and evenly. Our shoulders are down and our ears are away from our shoulders. And although we're halfway through our race, we're not panicking, we're good and relaxed. And you're 9 minutes in. So on this long straight pull up towards Yarrow Corner, is there anything we should particularly be looking out for, Hilary?
On your way down towards Yarrow Corner, probably not. If you were coming upstream from Yarrow Corner, there is actually on the back side of it, which you can't see from the river if you're rowing downstream, but there's actually a Yarrow, what we call Yarrow Slake. It's a mud slake. And when the tide's out, it's an amazing place for birds. There's cormorants, ducks, Canada geese, terns. And when I was looking at information about it yesterday, people who know more about birds than me, there was even a pair of avocets had been sighted there last spring, which I believe people had got quite excited about. And obviously
that's good for tourism in the town.
Yeah, and obviously the swans would be there as well.
And is Berwick a town or a city, Hilary?
No, Berwick is a town, quite a small town. Now, if I would be classed as living in Berwick, although I don't, I actually live in an area called Tweedmouth. It's the two sides of the river. So I live on the Tweedmouth side of the river, and I would be referred to locally as a Twempy because I live in Tweedmouth.
Excellent. And Tweedmouth's the south side?
Yes, yes. Now, as we just progress very slightly further down, we've on the north bank, there is a big private, it is now a big private house. Castle Hills House stands up in grounds up on the north bank, looking with a fantastic view right over the river. Now, from 1945 to 1984, this was actually a maternity hospital where I was born. So maybe I was destined to always be a rower, having been born overlooking the Tweeds. Now, a little bit of family history is that my late father was a rower before me, and despite the fact that I was born at the end of January, at the weekend, Dad rowed up the river so he could wave to Mum in the maternity hospital.
I think that's the most romantic story of the day. So did you row with your dad?
Never in competition, but yes, I mean, that was kind of how I learned. He did teach me to scull, and there was one day when we'd just gone very slightly upstream of the Royal Border train bridge, about 500 or 600 meters away from the club, and I wouldn't say it was rough, but there was a very slight swell, and I was screaming at him that he would have to come and get me. How exactly he was supposed to come and get me when he was in another single as well, I've no idea, but
Oh my
there you
goodness.
go. Yeah.
And tell us, excuse me, tell us a little bit about the trade fours, Hilary.
Yeah, our trades fours usually take place in August. Probably one of sports people's and Berwick's most anticipated events of the summer. Trades fours are sweep fours done in explore rowing boats, so they're more stable. 3 non-rowers and 1 club rower can be allowed in a crew. We practice for about 5 weeks beforehand and then have the competition, have races. We usually have a men's competition, a ladies competition and a mixed. Although it has actually been noted over the last few years that the competition to win the fancy dress seems to have outstripped who actually wins the rowing. So depends whether you want to spend a lot of time and effort on your fancy dress or whether you're going to be prepared to learn how to row. But it's an amazing community thing, and so many people get behind it, and it's just really, really good fun. And as I mentioned earlier, the RNLI, they very often send their inshore lifeboat and have a bit of fun with us as well.
Fantastic. And as treasurer, it's good fundraising too.
Definitely, yes. I mean, every club needs to raise funds, and as a small club, our costs are, well, similar to any other rowing club, I would assume, but when you're smaller, it's harder to raise funds. So yes, getting the trades fours on the go is great.
Excellent. So, as we've just gone through 14 minutes, as we're about to turn again for the Royal Border Bridge.
Yeah, just sort of beginning to line up for the Royal Border Bridge. Now you've got 15 arches that span over the river here, so you can kind of take your pick. If I was you, I'd probably stick for the middle where the water's flowing faster out, so you get a bit of tidal assist.
And there's 28 arches altogether over that bridge.
That's right, yeah. And it's on a very slight curve, so it curves, as well as going over the river, it curves round the area of Tweedmouth.
It just looks absolutely fantastic in the photographs.
Yeah,
just for a train ride.
Well, anybody that takes the East Coast Main Line, the area, I'm biased, but the area of the northeast coast is just absolutely stunning. And then when you get to Berwick upon Tweed, when you come across that bridge, if you look downstream, you can see our tiny little clubhouse with its red roof and its black walls and its BARC along the side. You can see us just nestled right on the side of the river there.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. So how far below the bridge is the finish of the race?
Oh, not far, just about 200 metres, say. We finish it very slightly upstream of the club, so people have got time to just paddle away from the finish, cool down, and then paddle back into the landings. Right.
So we're at 16 minutes.
Oh, you've had a lot of good tidal assistance then.
Thank goodness. And you said that we can't boat from your club as visitors because there's no vehicular access.
That's
so we're
right.
We're on the grass. That's public land, is it, opposite?
Yes, you're directly opposite our clubhouse on an area known as Tweed Green, that grassland area there, and we build steps to allow our visiting crews access down into the river from there.
Marvellous. So we have to have wellies.
Yes, oh yes. But if you want some of our well famous bacon rolls and chilli and curry and a nice friendly welcome after the race, if you just walk across the old bridge, it's not far, we'll provide you with some nice refreshments as well as a result.
That's good to hear. So we've got 3 minutes left of your row. So everybody's thinking about these we're just going under the border bridge 2 or 3 minutes dash to the finish line there.
Just watch that there's not just a bit of swell just bouncing around the bridge area there. You might just need to relax through that slight bit of swell coming off as you go through the bridge.
Excellent tip.
The finish is actually outside Tweedmouth Bowling Club. On the south bank is Tweedmouth Bowling Club, who again have a fabulous view of the river, and we mark our finish line just outside their club.
It's always good to have friends.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the sports clubs in Berwick, because we are quite a small town, we all pull together, and the trade sports is for us is case in point, where we get a lot of either workplaces or other sports clubs coming to have a bit of fun.
It does sound fun, and to be honest, the Northern Series sounds fun, and I know Kate at Dark Totnes has said the same. She quite fancies that.
Yeah, it is. It's I'm sure if anybody wanted to borrow or hire boats rather than trailing them halfway up the country, I'm sure either there's our club and much bigger clubs, I'm sure something could be organised.
Fantastic. And you've got just over a minute to go, people. So just have a look at your splits. Have you got anything extra to give yourselves for this last minute?
You've got people standing on both sides of the river now. It's quite wide at this point, but there are people all around. So just give it, you've paddled through the country where there's been nothing but sheep and cattle, but now you've actually got human habitation. So just press on for your last few strokes.
You've got 2 castles as well, Hilary, haven't you?
Not 2 castles. We've got the remains of a castle, but quite a lot of the stone from the castle was actually used in the building of the train bridge, the Royal Border Bridge. Wow. Now we've only got a castle ruin, but the footpath that runs along past our rowing club and for another mile, you actually walk through an arch, which is part of the old castle.
Wow. So last 10 seconds, everyone. And wind down.
Well done. It's much easier when you're not actually on a machine.